So I'm down here in the basement. This place is actually lighted like this. These grow lights are for different kinds of herbs. We have some peppers and stuff that we grow inside during the winter. So that way when springtime comes, we can already go and plant matured plants that hopefully will flower sometime soon. It's the same colored lighting from part of Make the Best of It, when the guy just wants to find some kind of girl to call his girlfriend. Just one of those kind of lucky things that worked well for what that scene was, and the scenery having to change for that particular emotional debacle, I guess. But no, I'm for this video, I kind of just wanted to touch more on, in a way, the purpose for creating a channel like this, and also kind of talk about content as a whole, because the internet's a strange little sphere, especially when the bulk of output are from things that honestly are similar to like network TV models. What you see is like Let's Play content, and those kinds of shows are just derivatives of things that made TV such a viable and profitable medium when it first came out. Of just, here's a simple format that we stick to, people will watch it, which certainly helps, and we can just output a whole bunch of it to occupy time. Because a lot of things are transacted through time. Like, certainly there's money involved and stuff, but the time that we give is ever increasingly becoming the more valuable asset, both in terms of, I guess, compensation, if you're paid per hour, and also just to warrant anyone doing anything, just someone investing their time. And so that tangent aside, a lot of my time on the internet, I've enjoyed that kind of stuff, that kind of material. There's certainly a place for all kinds of material, but ever increasingly, I've been realizing something I always knew, which is just kind of what my happy medium is for myself as someone who makes things. People who happen to have come over from the main channel can clearly see that I don't have the most prolific output schedule, which, I mean, in part is of my fault. Probably could make more stuff than I do, but also a lot of it is based purely on what is feeling the most pertinent to me. There are lots of times inside of the content world where you will just roll with whatever idea, and you get your finished product, which by all means, finishing anything it's worth recognizing. But for me, I would always feel like I had to achieve something of more depth than just instinctively going down a simple idea. And so it's why when I make something, it takes me time to really flesh out what is it that this thing is trying to say. does it do it in a way that I ultimately find interesting? Because a lot of people, when they work with craft, will sometimes try and uh, paste on certain like tricks and stuff that we know work to get a piece across the finish line. Oftentimes those things are what we ultimately recognize as cliche. Um, and as a result of me not going about that with my stuff, it takes a lot of time. And sometimes there are certain things that I feel I can't fully express through a medium like a film or a story or a song. And in part, it's because, sometimes things struggle to get fleshed out. Just being able to talk about and talk through certain things is incredibly useful for developing ideas, and also makes them not as precious, because the other piece for me as a creator has been trying to figure out what the relationship is between the consumer and the producer. So, like, for example, with a channel like this, I have no guarantees that it's consumed by anyone. But the same can be said about the other kinds of stuff that I make. No matter however much time and effort and depth that I try to pull off on the stuff that is ultimately as limited budget as I have, there's no guarantee of an audience engaging with it, of people looking at it to the degrees that you hope the audience would, or just try to examine it from the dimensions that you manufactured it from as well, because sometimes an audience just shows up for a little piece of entertainment. And when you're making something, especially of depth, you want to try and please as many people as you can, where it's like, if you're writing something that ultimately is just a fairy tale, you want, actually no, a better example is like the Pixar movies, where you take a kid there, the kid will enjoy it, they'll throw in a couple of pieces for the adults who would take their kids to see the movies, and just instilling those kinds of layers, while also a lot of times having an emotionally resonant message, makes those movies incredibly successful. It caters to a wide trove of audiences, and that's kind of it's not the ideal that you go for as a creator, but I think it just demonstrates as an example that a lot of times when crafting something like a story or a film or anything, or even a song, that a lot of times different audiences can come into mind, and that stuff ultimately takes time. So many things take time, and I feel like I treat a lot of the things that I think about and try to implement into my films as closely guarded secrets, when ultimately, once something comes out, it's out there. And granted, maybe everyone who watches might not be able to discern whatever kind of trick or secret that you're that you're trying to unveil inside of whatever it is. But one way or another, people find out, and so it's like, how precious truly is whatever idea that you're trying to embargo for whatever point. And that's kind of what encouraged me to try and just do stuff like this, just talking into the camera down in my basement. just recognizing that what I put into the stuff I make for whoever consumes it, if no one consumes it like this, ultimately doesn't matter. It's all to cater in whatever kind of creative pursuit that I want to achieve, because I'm not gonna try and rush myself. Part of the reason, especially why I wanted to come down and record this is I was just rewatching a video done by this animator named Noodle about crunch culture inside of the video game industry, and just remembering all the parallels as to why I haven't fully engaged in going down that traditional media route, because to me I don't feel a reward of like rushing to finish an episode of a TV show, which ultimately is gonna be is gonna be sullied in the swamp of TV, to maybe be remembered by some people, versus like just putting time in to make something that has a better chance of sticking with people. Television is a recyclable medium, and unfortunately there are certain elements of movies that kind of follow suit with that, but the real great films which are still coming out nowadays from masters of the craft, they will stick with you. And that's the beauty of that kind of art form, that people put in the time and the effort, and they don't rush. They take as much time as needed. It's a compromise between having it get done and having it get done right. And being able to stick to a structure like that, at least for me, it feels like the best compromise that I can make about making anything. Where in the whole content sphere, it's about how quickly can you get it out. How quickly can Mr. Beast get out his $1 versus $1 million baby stroller bit, or whatever it is that he's working on. It's about just pumping it consistently to feed whatever it is. Back in the age of TV, it was to fill the time slots. Nowadays, it's to feed algorithms, and in a way, time slots too. But that's a whole different game, and much respect to the people who are willing to play that game. I have found that it's not the exact way I would enjoy approaching, creating things, especially because it for me was always the thing on the side, and having that freedom of expression with something like this has always been in a way more freeing than using whatever skills I've developed with film and writing and whatever to just output stuff for people to watch. So I think for me the ultimate goal is to be able to take time to actually flesh stuff out that ultimately I can be proud of, versus rushing to go through and do it, and potentially being able to make stuff that I'm still proud of, but then dealing with the burnout of and whatever kind of imbalances that could be made at home with families and things, because so many of like the game studios and even animation studios, you see it a lot with the VFX industry, just how much is demanded of people to purely meet the deadline. And to me, I feel like if I had to wait an extra few months to a year for something, it's it's worth the wait. It's not worth the wait inside of the industry, whatever it is, because what that delay means is a steeper sunken cost into development. So, like, if you are running a production and you're 6 months behind, that's 6 months of pay that you owe to your crew, camera, actors, whatever, editors potentially, and that kind of stuff adds up. That stuff is the deciding factor between whether you work again or not. And in a field that is meant to, at least to me, be this vehicle of expression, that it, it feels better to try and find ways to compromise where you aren't putting out a product that could use a bit more refining versus getting something out just to the finish and then moving on to the next one. That kind of stuff feeds weird kind of efficiency culture and other kinds of elements that ultimately reinforce things like crunch culture and stuff like that, which I think we as a modern society have to really think about if if it's truly worth upholding, especially just with the way that people are nowadays, just strung to the limit on a thread and hoping for things to kind of settle at some point. I don't know if any of this made sense. I hope I was able to stay on a consistent line of thought. If I didn't and it was purely just tangents, I apologize. I hope, if anything, just in this little ramble, that some kind of coherent point was made. Ultimately, I like making stuff. I want to make more stuff, but also I want to not stress over hiding myself as an artist from an audience. I'll be hidden by the depths of the internet, which it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Because again, I don't know if anyone watches this in the same way that I don't know if anyone will watch the stuff that I try even harder to make. I just hope that it's the same moonshot that any artist makes too with the stuff they make, that the right people encounter it, and they encounter it at the right time where it's something that it is valuable to them. And if it's not, that's also okay. We have no control over what kind of stuff people will enjoy consuming and what kind of stuff will resonate with whoever at whatever time. But the beauty of being able to make stuff is that when you focus your idea so intensely on trying to capture some kind of just some kind of like human trait that inevitably people will hopefully learn something about themselves or try to think about something a little differently, because that's all art serves to do. It serves to help us expand the ways that we approach things, approach ourselves, approach our friends, our family, and just kind of helps us remember what all of this is anyway. But that's about it. If you sat through, thanks. If not, I understand. This is just a guy talking on a hammock, and I think Markiplier has a new video out now. Good guess, if any. But yeah, this is just another little ramble. This channel is just going to kind of be stuff like this, maybe other things that are potentially more cohesive. And whenever you're watching this, I hope that it's a good day. It's been a good day. And if it hasn't, it will hopefully get better. Time does that with everything. Take care.